I suppose the way for us to complete this whole topic of great songs of the church and how to understand great music is to think, at least for a few minutes, about where those great songs come from. Whence cometh songeth of greatness for churches with congregational singing, you might say. Well, first of all, back through history, we find that they came from theologians and musicians. Isaac Watts had a doctorate in divinity, and Charles Wesley had a Master of Divinity from Oxford, and the great musicians of Bach and Mendelssohn and Lowell Mason and so forth were contributing music. So we put words of the theologians with music of the great composers, and that's how we got the hymns that we have. Well, those days are long past, and these days most anybody could write a song, because we're not delving into as deep, as dense a text or as deep a theology. So it could be most anyone who writes now. As you're walking around the house, a song comes to your mind, you start singing it. It's instinctively good because it's instinctively singable, even if you don't play instruments and so forth. But let's pursue that just a little more. So that's the good news, that it's really available to anybody to write a great song. But the truth is, Christian musicians have much more of an advantage. Those who are performers, the singer-songwriters, tend to be the ones who get the worship songs out there. As a matter of fact, if you were to try to think of 5 significant contributors to the repertoire of worship music, but they weren't allowed to be performers, I think we'd be hard-pressed to come up with even one who is just a songwriter and a local worship leader, but not in some way a performing artist. So that's where most of our songs come from. It's from the people who are out there performing. It's probably not fair, because there are lots of good songs out there, I'm sure, but it's just the way that it is. Let's take that to the next level. Not only is it the Christian artists and performers, but it's publishing companies. Publishing companies have decided which songs are going to be hits, and therefore they dump the money into marketing and getting that song out there. If the publishing company didn't decide that it was going to be a hit and didn't decide to push you as an artist, then not enough people will hear about it. Okay, let's just imagine you're a great worship songwriter, and you've written a song that's really going to work in your local church, and somebody visits your church and they say, "Oh, that was a wonderful song, could I use it at my church?" Yes. And over the course of 5 years, maybe there are 10, maybe 50 different churches that are using your song, and it's really found popularity. Well, that pales in comparison to the person who's been promoted by a publishing company and landed a record deal with a major label and had them push them as a performing artist. So that's where most of the great majority of our songs are coming from these days. What's more, radio play seems to be a huge influence on that whole thing. If you can't somehow get into this circle, this tight-knit circle of performers, publishers, and radio play, then you have very little chance of having your song just become one of those word-of-mouth wonders. Now, there are always exceptions to the rule, but by and large, this is where they come from. So if you want to be able to find great music, turn on your radio, and you'll hear what will be the best-known songs, and they simply will be the best-known songs, just like movies, because every once in a while somebody could create a movie that's actually better than what's being promoted out there, but they did it independently, they funded it themselves, they by word of mouth are trying to distribute it, and so forth. Every once in a while those great movies come along, but by and large you need the deep pockets of the promoters and the marketers and all that in order to make something known. So as with movies, so with songs, it pretty much has to go through that path. There is, however, a way to distribute music, not only by word of mouth, but by means of the internet. These days we have so much communication. In a sense, everybody can be on level ground as long as people can find you, can find your song. And so through MySpace or through Facebook, or by having your own website and kind of advertising, you can create your own demo, and your song can get out there. Now, can you make any money from that song? That's not the issue right now that we're talking about, but will people find it, and will they use it and sing it as a congregation? Perhaps they will. In any case, it has changed over the years. So everybody could write a worship song, but then not everybody can get a worship song known by other people. The purpose of this study, however, is not how to become known as a songwriter. It's where can you find those songs. And so I'm sad to say that's where most of the songs come from, but it's the reality.